Hey people, welcome to our new show. ¿No?
¿En español o en inglés vamos a hacer esto?
En españolísimo.
No sé, porque el capítulo que van a escuchar está en inglés. Así que si es que les cuesta un poco, bájenle quizás la velocidad o vayan a YouTube donde va a estar con subtítulos. Y está en inglés porque el invitado que tenemos...
Tuvimos que salir, quizás yo más que Pablito que viene de Estados Unidos, de la zona de confort. Algo que incentivamos todo el tiempo porque es la manera de mejorar. Gracias Fran Booster por todas estas clases de inglés que me han ayudado a soltar un poquito más la lengua.
Gratis en el grupo de productividad de la comunidad.
Sí señor, porque hablamos con Gopi Kallayil. Este personaje, porque es un personaje, es el Chief Business Strategist de Google para Inteligencia Artificial, triatleta, músico,
Autor de 2 libros.
Autor de 2 libros, charlas TED. Nos falta algo.
Y hace un programa de educación financiera para todo Google, que es la Serenidad financiera. Que de hecho le preguntamos también. Hablamos también de los MEDs, que es la charla TED, que lo vimos en una sesión de inglés. Y nos dijo que la había expandido. Y nos puso a prueba. Nos contó cada una de las letras y después nos dijo, ya, pues repítanla. Y estuvo durísimo, pero ahí pongan atención.
Pablito me echó al agua.
Sí, porque estaba leyendo y había que aprendérselas de verdad. Así que mientras escuchen, traten de ir aprendiéndose estas MEDs mejoradas. Y en verdad disfruten de la conversación. Estuvo intensa, encuentro. Es raro entrevistar en inglés a alguien que en verdad no conocemos en persona. Pero creo que sale buena. No sé cómo la sentiste tú.
Yo la sentí muy buena. Tan buena que no pudimos hablar de inteligencia artificial. Quedó para una segunda sesión. Pero sí, al final del capítulo nos deja una introducción a lo que vamos a hablar ahí, que está buenísima, así que lleguen hasta el final. Y nada, una persona tan inteligente nos comparte lo que le está compartiendo a otras personas muy inteligentes en Google para que aprendan a manejar su plata, para que aprendan a manejar su vida y traten de ser felices. Así que no le tengan miedo, escúchenlo. En el peor de los casos se van a YouTube con subtítulos. Esto es parte del aprendizaje animal. Bienvenidos a Animales.
Pero antes de eso, ¿cómo la gente podría aprender inglés?
Quizás
aparte de la comunidad animal.
En alguna universidad podría ser.
Puede ser. Alguna universidad con cursos online, como la Universidad Autónoma, fiel auspiciadora de Animales Financieros. Si quieren investigar las carreras que tienen online, en admisión.uautonoma.cl, no es de inglés, pero la universidad también nos puede ayudar. Obviamente uno aprende porque te obligan después a investigar en los papers, a profundizar. El inglés es muy importante, y aprender es muy importante, aprender de una forma estructurada es muy importante, y la Universidad Autónoma creo que es un buen camino para hacerlo.
Sin barreras físicas, 100% online, vayan a buscarla. admisión.uautonoma.cl. Ahora sí nos vamos al capítulo.
Let's
Welcome
go
to the jungle.
Gopi, come to us.
Great to see you again now through this mean after a lovely dinner that we have here in Chile a few months ago. In that day, you told me about financial serenity, a concept that you basically share with your friends and Googlers. We are very much excited if you tell us a little bit about what you tell Googlers, because when you mentioned that night, you said that even in a crowd probably as smart as the people that works in Google, many of the things that you share with them, they were not aware of that. So if we can assume if the people that works at Google, many of these basic, we would imagine there are basic financial concepts are not something that they have in mind, that is something that probably everyone else, and particularly our audience here, can benefit of you telling us what basically is what you share in this financial serenity concept that the name I like very much.
Thank you, Fernando, and thank you for hosting me in Santiago when I was there and with the Wharton alumni group. And yes, I remember that conversation over dinner when I talked about the concept of financial serenity. And it's something I learned over a period of time by reading books, by talking to other experts, attending courses, etc. And yes, I do teach it to some of my colleagues at Google as a favor when they ask me, but it's not just limited to Google. The same concept, I think I could teach it to Wharton alumni group. I could teach it to a group of young professionals starting their careers. I teach it to nephews, nieces, and other young family members, if only they would listen to me. And the concept is simple. Money is one of the energies, factors we have to manage in our life. We live in a world with certain economic rules. Money is a means of exchange. And if you manage it well, then it takes care of some aspects of your life. It's not the only thing. You got to take care of your health. You got to take care of your relationship. You need to have like a some sense of a spiritual connection. So there are many dimensions to us, our life as human beings. Creativity, being of productive use, and feeling a sense of self worth and self confidence. Many dimensions. But financial energy is one of the energies that flows through your life, and a lot of people struggle with it. There, you can see them getting stressed about it. The concept of financial serenity is if you can manage the flow of that energy through your life in a way that you have some sense of control, some sense of direction, some sense of purpose, some sense of meaning, it takes away that stress in your life. It reduces that stress. So that's what this concept is built on. It's not about accumulating things and having so much that you can brag on social media that your house or your car is grander than someone else. Uh, I have no problems with people doing it if that's what feeds them, but that is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about here the concept that you manage that financial energy that flows through our lives if we are working professionals and manage it in such a way that it takes care of four things. And the four things being first, it covers your basic standard of living. You know, there are some basics we all need: food, shelter, clothing, uh, insurance, healthcare, etc. So, how do we make sure that is covered? It's not a source of stress, and that you're able to fund it yourself using this financial energy flowing it through your life. And then, over beyond that, there are some things that we may want to do occasionally to indulge ourselves. It's sort of what gives meaning to a life. It might be, you know, going on a vacation, or attending a concert of your favorite musician. A lot of things like that people do. And then the next level is to then having enough, if you choose to pursue your passions. So, for example, I am recording music this Saturday in the studio. It's my passion. My goal is not to become a very successful recording artist, but I'm doing it because I enjoy that particular subgenre of music, which I shared with you, Fernando, and I sent you a few links. I do it. It's not going to make me famous or rich, but I love creating that kind of music. But I have the freedom to be able to do that, an album a year or so in the recording studio, and fund that. So that would be the next, can it fund your passions? And then one stage beyond that is there a surplus in terms of financial energy that you can use for giving and having an impact. And this would be, say, okay, I've taken care of all these first three. Now I can use some of that energy to uh, fund or support the Wharton School, because they gave me so much in an education. And can you get up to that level? So those would be the, four levels at which you create that financial energy so that you live a serene life as far as money and finances are concerned.
Great. And how we achieve financial serenity? What is the things that we need to do in order to achieve that state of mind, a less stressful financial world?
Yeah, that's a very big question. And you can take first a philosophical approach to it and then a more practical, everyday approach on what you do with the dollars and cents and bills and expenses, etc. So let's start with the financial approach. And the uh, number one financial approach that I adopt and I tell people to adopt is to operate from a place of abundance, not scarcity, that we live in a world of abundance. Because money as an energy is, sorry, money as a concept is just a tool that humans have created as a means of exchanging things that are of value. You use the exact same amount of money, and with it, you can buy housing or food or medicines, etc. And those things exist in the universe in abundance. At least that's a philosophical thought you want. So I'll give you two examples of that. It's just a question of reframing. If you take something like food, all of the food that all humans need is available. Nature produces it. The earth is abundant to say, I will let you grow enough food on the surface of the planet, or from other sources, from the ocean, or uh, from domesticated animals, whatever your source of food is there for enough to feed. But the fact that 975 million people will go hungry tonight is because of a whole other set of reasons, mostly human created. But nature itself is abundant. Or take something like, I want to expand my sphere of knowledge and understanding of the world, of music, or study cooking or Spanish. The abundance is there. If you look at just the educational material available on a platform like YouTube now for free, the abundance is there, right? So there are many ways by which you can look at and saying, I have everything I need, and it's sort of, now how do I just structure my life around it so that it supports and it flows into my life. And money is a means by which you can do that exchange and make it flow. So you start with the abundance mentality. And the second philosophical construct is that it is possible to create that over a lifetime. And you have stories every part of the world where some people have figured this out using their smarts and using their capabilities and their talents and their brains, particularly the kind of people who I think might be listening to this podcast. So they have figured out a way by which to make this energy flow through the life, at least to start the process, earn a living, earn an income. But from that point onwards, the philosophical construct has to be that you have some degree of control. There are techniques by which you can do this. You can actually go from financial want to financial serenity if you learn some basic rules. Again, the analogy that I will have, assuming if you have no major problem and you're a reasonably well functioning individual, there are things you can do to take care of your health. You don't need to be very sophisticated. If you understand some basic rules about nutrition, about exercise, hydration, sleep, restoration, etc., you can actually lead a fairly healthy life, and it's in your control. There are things that you can do, and the same goes for managing this financial energy and getting to a state of financial serenity. And that's where I teach the practical tools. But first of all, you have to start with that framework to say, I'm operating from a place of abundance, that I can, using things in my control, get to a place of financial serenity, and that I am willing to take a disciplined approach to learn and apply these principles. And there is a difference between what I'm saying versus a lot of people saying, let me get you to be extraordinarily wealthy. And there are all these courses you can go do on real estate and investment, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just getting people to a level of that financial serenity where those four layers are met: your basics, your luxuries, your passions, your occasional luxuries, your passions, and then get you to a state of giving.
Sometimes we humans always want more, and we get confused about our needs and our wants, and those different categories that you mentioned. How can you draw a line, put a limit uh, of your needs? Because sometimes we feel that we need a better car, we need an offshore vacation, and maybe that's made because of the social media, or looking to your friends that sometimes they pay that with debt. So how you draw that line?
Yeah, that's an important consideration, and almost all human beings at some level seem to be driven by that. For me, that answer usually comes from a certain inner exploration. And personally, for me, it has come from practicing certain spiritual traditions and path coming from the East that makes you ask, like, okay, you have this need, where is it coming from? And you need to be able to introspect. So when you have like any amount of contemplative life, you start asking about these questions. Do I need it? Do I want it? Is it absolutely needed? What is driving that? So I will again give you an example of that kind of knowing clearly in your head why you're seeking what you seek. So if you're raising a family, the family absolutely needs safety, security, and shelter, the basic needs. And there's a certain minimum quality and standard that you want to make sure you provide for your family no matter where you live. And that is absolutely a need that every human, every family has a certain level of security and comfort in terms of housing. But we are also driven by this thing where even if we have it, we feel we are underachievers if the housing we have is not bigger and better and broader and more glamorous than someone else's. You start making comparison. And then today with social media, when you can actually look at everyone else everywhere in the world, and there's an abundant amount of pictures and videos coming from all over the world of people showing off their excesses, you get caught up in it and you feel like you need to be there. And a lot of it is driven by the feeling that I'll only have a sense of worth and I'll only be happy if I get to that point. That's what is driving the thing for more. Uh, if someone says, I'm trying to accumulate more because I want to give more, I can have a bigger impact. That is one way of looking at it. But if you what you want is to have more so that you establish some kind of a moral superiority, which is what drives a lot of us in our behavior, then you have to step back, pause, and ask the question, is this really meaningful to me? Is this going to make a difference? And and if you have a legitimate answer, again, I don't want to be the moral guide to other people on what they choose to do. But if you have a strong enough reason, and if you feel completely comfortable with the reason, then you should go for it. But it all goes back to asking yourself, what are you seeking and why are you seeking it? And once you understand that, then you either do it or you change your behavior, change your aspiration.
I think that's a very interesting concept. I remember reading your book and where you mentioned about the Buddhists, about leaving everything behind, or the Native American, the vision quest. And in the Western world, maybe in Chile mostly, people don't do these kinds of things. It's hard to live an introspective life. And I think it helps a lot. I mean, could be starting with meditation. I don't know. What would be your advice for someone that has no idea where to start with living an introspective life, but would like to give it a try?
Well, read my book. I do basics of
Yeah.
that. It's like you discovered. In today's world, there's no dearth of books and podcasts and YouTube videos that you can go and explore. Again, I don't want to recommend a particular one. You can read philosophers, and I think there are a lot of philosophers, both Eastern and Western, who they read work by Buddha or ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita or some of the German philosophers, Nietzsche, etc. Uh, you start looking in that direction. Uh, what I did was I just started picking up books or talking to people who spoke like this. I would broadly say, yeah, go towards a contemplative uh, practice. And there are many different ways to do it. There's the classical text like try and study, I would say. I mean, I would only speak from my own experience or lens. And you can start with, I would say read my first book, The Internet to the Internet. I talk about it. I talk of some of the resources. But if you want something more structured, I mean, you could go to something deeply philosophical. I like the Bhagavad Gita, but it can be a little dense and may take a while. It might be too much for someone just getting started. You could also try a book that came from a Googler, which now became almost a course at Google. It's called Search Inside Yourself. It's been translated into multiple languages. It's available in Spanish. And my friend Chad Meng Tan wrote it, and he uh, tried to bring it down to a level where a young, modern audience, usually sophisticated, working in tech, etc., can relate to it. So that might be a good start. There are several. You can do a more formal course, like the 14-day meditation course I did. 10-day meditation, silent meditation retreat, vipassana. No matter where you live, I would say start off by finding if there is some sort of a meditation program available. If you search for mindfulness or meditation, or search on YouTube 1 hour meditation or mindfulness lecture or class, that might be a good start just to get a taste of it. And then use Google to explore further, and you'll find more and more resources. There are so many out there. But who is listening to it? You probably are associated with some institution that will give you access to one wherever you live, like your school, university, company, healthcare systems are beginning to offer this. So multiple ways by which to get that initial exploration. And usually when you start the search, things show up in front of you.
But I think that it's really important to take baby steps, and you
Exactly.
said it.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, it will be too hard, because the work, you start to realize that it's too big to climb that mountain. So baby steps, I think that is crucial for have success.
Let me propose this then. And I could give a long list and say, I'm going to send you a list of 10 podcasts and websites you should go to, and these 3 books you should read. And then you should go to this 1 month meditation course at a Buddhist monastery in Thailand. Instead of that, I would simply say, go to Google, wherever you are, and type that exact phrase, how to explore a contemplative life. I'll give you a set of links and resources. Start with that, click. And so go with that curiosity, and you will find a set of resources, because then you will choose the things that call out to you, and then there'll be subsets of links and resources, etc. You'll end up with YouTube videos, you'll end up with podcasts, and that might be like a really good place to start this journey. And if you want a very classic book, I think reading Thoreau, Walden Pond, a book like that might be also a very good one just to think of from a philosophical perspective, because he spent a long time living in a very minimal way at Walden Pond, Henry David Thoreau, and talks about it. And it's a very beautiful book that talks about his own journey. But since you brought up the topic, I'll tell you of 2 things that I did that really also made me think deeply about it. When was my 20s, I did an outward bound course. I was living in Hong Kong at the time. And as part of the course, they do a modern version of going into the wilderness that you mentioned earlier, that various traditional societies had. And as part of this, the instructors dropped me off on an island in the South China Sea. There were no inhabitants, and all I had was a tent, a little bit of food I took with me, and water, and I had to live there for, I think, just 24 hours, and with nothing else, no other resource, and it was completely by myself. It was simply a 24-hour period. But just being in that 24-hour period and having to go through that phase of seeing how minimally I could live in that environment, even if it's for a 24-hour period, just reset my thinking, because I saw the process of adaptation on the resources I tapped into that is available both outside of me in nature and inside of me. Later on in life, I also did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, vipassana, where you meditate 14 hours a day. That's all you do. And in that program, you don't speak to anyone. You don't make eye contact with anyone. You have no books to write on. You have no books to read. You can't listen to music. You just sit there with this container and your thoughts. That's all you have. And you meditate. It's not easy at all. To sit with the neurosis of our own minds is not an easy process. But it gave me a chance to step back and live with the essential simplicity of my life, which consisted of my meditation cushion, a little bit of food that they serve for sustenance, and water for hydration, my simple bed in the retreat center that you slept on, and the rest of the time you had to lean inwards on your inner resources, primarily driven by your thoughts, your awareness, your consciousness. And it changes your life instantly when all the noise goes away, all the other things that define you as part of your identity that you own and you possess and you put so much energy into, like your car you're mentioning. When all of that is absent and all you have is yourself and your cognitive capability, it changes your view on life very quickly.
I'm not sure how many people will last will be able to go through the whole 10 days. Probably very few.
Yes, yeah, people who go. I mean, it's a course that's now available all over the world. By the way, it's free. Talk of abundance. That whole course you cannot pay. They don't charge. Um, you have an interesting concept. The person who originated it, Mr. Goenka, SN Goenka, um, insisted that he will teach it and he will spread it all over the world free. So there are Vipassana retreat centers all over the world. I'm sure there's one in Chile or definitely several in South America. And if somebody listening to it says, how can I find out about one? The URL is www.dhamma, uh, which is like Dharma, but spelled Dhamma. I think the Pali way of saying Dharma is Dhamma. D for dog, H for Harry, H for Harry, A for apple, M for mother, A for apple, dhamma.org. If you go then and list by continents, within continents, the retreat centers, and all those retreat centers around the world, there are hundreds, they're free, and it's very difficult to get into. There's a wait list almost everywhere. But if you apply one in the future, you should get in. They provide you free accommodation, free food, free training, and no charge because it's gifted away. When you leave, if you feel you benefited from it, you can leave a donation, and the donation pays for the next person. So they use a pay it forward model. So when you go there, you're the recipient of someone else's generosity. So I was talking about the Vipassana model where they paid forward. They do not even take, because again, that spirit of abundance and not scarcity is what they're trying to create. And when you go to a course, you have to remember you are beneficiary of someone you never met. They gifted and is paying for your course. So then you gift it forward and keep it going. So there are institutions like that as well in our world.
What an incredible experience and experiment. And as you said, life is one big experiment. You said that one way to approach happiness is by taking your meds. Can you explain the concept to us and to our
Sure.
people?
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you. I've actually expanded the concept to give yourself medals every day. I started with meds, I expanded to medals, and there are 8 things embedded in it. But the genesis of that is when I realized and I started exploring the topic of happiness for my book, The Happy Human. One of the things I realized is that happiness, however you define it, is a feeling, emotion, state of being, whatever your definition is, that can only be experienced in this container. Somewhere within your body, mind, cognitive function, brain, heart, you feel this feeling or emotion of happiness. It has to come from within this. This is where you experience it. And I also learned very quickly as I started thinking about it, my own experience and talking to other people. You experience it when this container, this is what defines me as a human, you experience it better when it is highest functioning, when it's in a state of peak experience. So let me deconstruct that for you. And I learned this from an Indian mystic who's now famous all over the world called Sadhguru. He teaches the art of, I think he teaches Isha Yoga. That's his program. But you got a lot of content from him. Sadhguru, when I had lunch with him once, he said something that really took me aback because I had not thought of life this way. He said, this is one of the greatest chemical factories that nature has created, our body. Because if we think of it constantly, it is creating a lot of chemicals that is going around the body. That's what makes our body function, including our thinking. Because in our brain, there are a lot of brain chemicals that are being created, and that may lift our mood or lower our mood. And he said all life experience has to be filtered by this container, which is unique to each of us. So if you think about it, Pablo has his own container, and Francisco has his own, and Fernando has his own, and I have it. And it consists of our body, our physical container, our blood, skin, etc., our brain, which defines our cognitive ability, and somewhere in our what we call heart, not the physical heart, but the heart which deals with our emotional responses. So all of our life experience has to be filtered by this layer. There is no experience each of us uniquely have outside of this container. I call it our inner net, just as a play on the internet, which is outside of us, but the inner net. So if I'm saying something, I see Fernando looking intently at me and he's listening to my tonality and my gestures and my facial expression and listening to my words, and he's processing it. He's having a certain experience based on that. But it has to be processed by his container, and the same thing is happening with the Francisco internet, and the same thing completely separately is happening to the Pablo internet, even though all of you are watching me and listening to me. It's kind of interesting. The same thing goes with food, how food is digested. When you hear a piece of music, all three of you could hear the exact same piece of music, and you might emotionally shift in different ways because your internet processes it differently. So our entire life experience comes from this resource that we carry around with us for a whole life, and it's unique to each one of us, our specific internet. The second concept I reflected on, a conclusion I arrived at, was this: that we all want to have some sort of a professional expression or a personal expression. We go through life, we write poetry, we create art, we do things for other people, we build houses or furniture with our hands, we write business plans, start companies, we come up with ideas, we go philosophical. All of these things are different forms of human self expression. And that also has to come from this internet. So any self expression that Fernando has put out in his life came from the Fernando internet. And whether he cooked a meal, whether he wrote a business plan, whether he stood and gave a talk, or whether he picked up an instrument and started playing music, all of that self expression had to be created from this container: a body, a breath, our mind, our brain, our consciousness. So, therefore, if you accept those two theories, our life experience has to be filtered by this layer, or life expression has to come from this layer. We live our life better if we put this inner state into a state of peak performance. And I also found that when we do that, when we are in this peak experience state, when we are in this peak expression state, that seems to open the door to a happier life. At least in my case, this is what I found through my personal experience. So once I understood that concept, that I seem to be happier, and I can only experience happiness through this container, and I experience happiness at a higher state when I'm experiencing life at a peak state, when I'm expressing myself at a peak state. I then went and asked the question, like any Wharton grad would, Fernando, in a very logical way: how do I do this? What are the methods by which I can put my Gopi internet into a state of peak performance? And I found 8 things help me on a daily basis. And those 8 things are in this formula called medals, MEDALS, like a medal that you would get if you ran a half marathon at the finish line. So you just use that as a playful way of remembering it. And I have since then I've had and expanded the formula. Instead of take your meds, and I would say give yourself medals every day. So what does it mean, give yourself medals? It stands for 8 things, and the 8 things being: M for meditation. I find that on a daily basis, taking some time for sitting quietly, pausing, and spending some time in reflection, contemplation, in any style. There are many modalities humans have created. That seems to put my body and mind in a state of peak performance. It calms me down. It clarifies things in my life. It makes me question, why do I need more? What is that I'm seeking? That sort of a, you need to give yourself some time to think about it. So I am for meditation. E is for exercise. So I find that when I move my body, it changes the chemicals in my body at a physical level, at a mental level. I feel better. My body functions better. In fact, right after this, at 3:30, and I was telling Fernando this, I'll have to stop and go to my next thing. It's going to be interval training. Twice a week on the Google campus, I go to interval training. There's a couple of other days I might do yogas. I do swimming one day. So on a daily basis, I have some chosen time where I focus on E for exercise or physical activity. And I tell people, do whatever moves you. It could be walking, it could be hiking. You pick what you get excited by, but do something. D, the third alphabet in that series, is diet or nutrition. By diet, I don't mean dieting, but what is in your diet? Because I found that what we put into our body changes that body composition, our mental makeup, and the chemicals in our body very quickly. So if you learn the rules of healthy nutrition, you have some degree of control. And there are a lot of many different systems out there. I follow a certain system, and I don't necessarily want to go into details. It's a longer conversation. But personally, and I choose water as my primary source of hydration more than anything else. I eat plant-based food, things that grow on a plant that seems to serve my body needs better. So those are personal choices. I don't want to get to a long discussion, but each one of us should choose or at least understand what is it that you're putting in your body, how much of it, why are you choosing it, should you do it, should you replace it with something else. But very, very conscious choice in terms of what you put into your body from a nutrition, food, beverage perspective. The next one is A, medals, MEDA. And A stands for living with an attitude of gratitude. It's a way of tricking your brain into focusing on the abundance in your life, the appreciation for the things that are working well in your life, and live with an attitude of gratitude. Everything we can, every day we can look at our lives, and no matter what circumstances are, say, I celebrate these amazingness in your life, even if there are other things you might feel want or you might feel there's a lack. So that's the fourth principle in that formula, a appreciation, attitude of gratitude. Next letter in medals is L, MEDAL. And L stands for two things. L stands for love as the first principle, self love. And the reason I put that is I feel that in our culture and society, in our modern life, there's a lot of self judgment, self loathing. And if you can replace it with self love, the complete radical acceptance of ourselves exactly as we are and who we are as a baseline. Of course, you can work towards improving and changing things, but at least saying, I am good enough as it is, uh, exactly as I am at this point. And then, of course, then practice love for others around you as well with whom you have a relationship. So L for love, especially self-love. L also stands for one more thing, learning. Uh, One of the most important muscles in our body or organs is our brain, probably the most sophisticated. We as humans barely begin to understand what it does and how it works. We're still studying it. And we're studying it as neuroscientists do from a physiological perspective. We are trying to study it as philosophers have done through ages from a philosophical perspective. But learning something complex every day seems to keep this organ active. So there, the concept is spend a little bit of time every day trying to dive into something that is a little difficult and complex. It could be I'm going to spend time understanding artificial intelligence. It could be I'm going to try and play the piano because it's a different language, or it could be that I am going to try and learn a new language because I have to wrap my brain around new grammatical structures and concepts, etc. So L. The last letter is S. S also stands for two things. The first S is sleep. Um, Only recently I understood the power of sleep and what happens in the restorative process, and how important it is to make sure that you get good quality sleep, because that determines a lot of things for the next day and the next several days. And S is one more component, the final one, and that is social connections. We are social beings. We need that sense of connection. Um, I discovered it particularly so during the pandemic when I was living an isolated life. And as contrast to that, I'm meeting Fernando or video, and it brings a certain level of proximity and affinity, which is fantastic that these technologies can, but just does not come even remotely close to the experience that I had of meeting him in person at the Warden event and then going out for dinner with him. There is that element that when we are next to each other, that humans share, that is irreplaceable, and that comes from a social context. And whatever it is that we choose to do socially, we might just go to an alumni meeting, we might say, let's go for a drink or go for a walk, or sometimes it's in the form of spiritual communities or activity based golf clubs. But social connections are needed. So let me repeat that. That is the formula. Give yourself medals every day. In fact, let me see how well you learned it. So why don't I give the alphabet? You give me the answer. M for
Meditation,
meditation,
E for
exercise.
exercise,
Francisco is reading.
Francisco's reading from his cheat sheet. No, you got to say it from memory.
Okay.
D for
Diet.
diet. A for attitude of
Attitude of
Attitude.
gratitude.
appreciation
Gratitude.
or celebrating
Appreciation.
effort. That's how you want to phrase it. We'll do it one more time, but this time we'll do it in Spanish. So then let's see, and it sticks even more. So think of the right word to do it. L stands for two things. The first L is
Love.
Love,
love,
and
self
and I
love,
will
and
stress
second
self
L is
love. I think it's very important concept that you said that we have to love ourselves. I
yeah,
think that is a good motto.
the radical self acceptance of ourselves. Yeah, and love, self love. And L stands for one more thing for our brain,
Learning,
learning. And S stands for
Learning.
things. First S is for restoration, coming
Sleep.
from sleep. And the second S is for,
Social
Social
connection.
connection.
okay,
In person.
yeah, in person was the best way to do it. But anyway, it is. I mean, we had to use all elements, even dropping a quick message on voicemail to someone saying, "I've been thinking of you, and you're in my mind. I appreciate what you did." It helps. Every bit helps. In person is the ultimate state, but it's not practical. But bring in all the elements that you can. This quick one sentence email, or sending someone flowers, or just a thank you card that you anonymously leave on someone's desk makes a difference. Okay,
Gopi,
so going back to it in Spanish, M4,
meditación. That's easy.
E4,
Ejercicio,
Ejercicio.
Yeah, works.
works.
D4, nutrition, diet,
Dieta, keep.
Dieta.
Dieta.
We're still
A4, appreciation. What would you say in
Ac-
Spanish?
Actitud.
actitud de agradecimiento. Works.
L4,
That's stuff.
El amor.
That's the difficult one.
L'amour.
L'amour.
We have to change it to French.
yeah. And L4, learning.
Aprendizaje.
Also, yeah, aprendizaje is with A.
Okay, that's okay. So
Leer. We could say
Leer.
read.
oh, you're trying to match the English alphabet. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's fine. S4,
Dormir.
Sleep.
Sleep is dormir.
Dormir.
Siesta.
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 Taking a nap.
Yeah, and as for social connection,
In Spanish
Sí,
would be
social-
conexiones
social.
sociales, pero sociabilizar.
you know the concept.
That
People
can
pick
work
up the
too.
word, or maybe you
It
can come
works.
up with a different acronym for those 8 things in Spanish. Good. Okay, so that's really the model. That's the formula.
When
I want to bring Fernando. Sorry, I want
Sure.
to bring something from yesterday that we took the weekly English session of our community. We get together and we talk in English. It's like I think that we do, and we saw your video, your TED talk, and people says this is amazing. This is a really good framework. But some people says, okay, but this is too hard. This is like live like a robot. It's impossible that I should do this every day. How you approach to a disciplined life through these medals? Because that's the really hard part.
So first of all, again, everything is about reframing it. You can define it. Some people may say, "Oh, this is like living like a robot," but I look at it as if I'm doing able to do all these things. I'm living like use whatever metaphor at my ultimate peak state. I'm living a life of abundance and luxury because I'm doing all these things. I'm sleeping well. I'm highly motivated. I don't see it as robotic. I feel like this is, in Sanskrit, we call it dharma. This is my ultimate dharma, my purpose, my essential property, intrinsic property of my life. Everything else is secondary. So in the book, again, I talk about it. We have 24 hours in a day. 24 hours. And I did the math. If you were to do the medals in its every form, it'll only take about 10 hours in a day and you can get through your medals. And you still got 14 hours to do whatever else you want. But I would start off by saying if you have 24 hours, if you had to use all 24 for your medals, why wouldn't you? You're taking care of yourself. You're giving yourself the gift of time, and everything else should be secondary. So you have the choice of not doing it also. Okay? No one's asking you to do it. The thing with this kind of formula is And I would, if I were in the room, I would ask these people: is there's good news and bad news. The good news is you can do it. No one else can do it for you, right? It's in your control. It's in your choice. The bad news is only you can do it. You cannot outsource this. You cannot hire someone else to exercise for you. You have to apply and do it yourself. So be prepared to put in the time. You have the choice of not doing it and get to a certain quality of life experience and life expression. And if that is what you want to do with this incredible opportunity called life that you've been given, totally up to it. You have the freedom to do it. I am making the choice to do things differently because I want to live a different quality and purpose of life. So the next hour, I said, as soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to go to interval training, enjoy it. I'll be outdoors, and today's a nice warm sunny day here in California, and I'll be in community. The people exercise with my trainer. We all meet every 2 days, and so for me, the social aspect is being there. I come out of it feeling fantastic. My appetite is much better tonight. I know I'll sleep better. Instead, I could have chosen to do something a very different set of activities, and I know I will feel less happy, less energized. So I am making the choice to be in a happier, higher expressive state. That is a choice I'm making. I'm not asking anyone else to do it. You do what is best for you. So no one should feel like I'm being forced to live like a robot. It's available. It's your decision. It's your choice. It's your life. And all of those things don't need to be done every single day. So don't get me wrong. This is not like a regimented system where if you don't do it, you'll be punished and you'll be bad things will happen to you. No, this is just directional stuff. There are days when I don't get to meditate. I try to do it, but if I skip it, I'm not a bad person. If I, out of a week, 7 days, if I did it for 5 days, I feel good, and 2 days I missed it, that's still okay. When traveling, these things get disrupted. Same way with food. You got to be careful about what you put in your body. Uh, Here today, I'm on the Google campus. There's fantastic cafes, and there are a lot of choices. I can do it. But sometimes when I'm traveling, going through airports, those choices are not available. I may miss a meal. You're dashing, rushing to go to a plane, and you're stressed, and you might grab a beverage like uh, a latte, which may not be the best thing for you, but that's what is available, and you feel like that will do it. And it's not a rigid system; it's a directional thing, and you make those choices. Um, Having said that, I found this is not easy, right, to practice this in a very disciplined way. Usually, when I'm in a retreat center, when I go to an ashram, a yoga ashram, I find it easy to do because they have a system. They ring the bell at 5:30, you get up at 6, everybody meditates together at 6:30, and the day flows beautifully around that structure. On left to my own in my home work situation, and you mix and travel, these things fall apart. I fall off the wagon, I get back on, and then I few days I keep it, then I fall off, and so it's actually fun to see to what extent you as a human can maintain it. Having said that, I found that building in tiny daily habits are the easiest way to get that. Tiny daily habits. And I'll give you an example of the tiny daily habit. So one of them is I commit myself to just 1 minute of meditation, 1 minute of yoga in a day. 1 minute, 60 seconds. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. I just say, okay, 1 minute I will have the discipline to meditate. The other 1,339 minutes, do whatever else you want. You have full freedom. Can you come into 1 minute? And every one of us human beings say, yeah, 1 minute, 60 seconds is not too bad. So that's all the lowest possible threshold that you can say, you cannot say no to. And if you just start with like, I'll just do 1 minute, it's actually, you'll find it that you will go to 7, 10 days. A daily meditation might be, I'm going to get up, brush my teeth, and sit for a minute of meditation before my day gets going. But very soon that one becomes two, the other becomes three. So you start building those tiny daily habits, and that's your best chance of uh, success. Or take something like hydration. They'll say you need to drink a certain amount of water, and for me, it's about 100 ounces of water is what I have estimated is the right amount for me. I'm showing you on the video. This is a 25-ounce bottle. So if I remember to just keep it with me all the time and sip it, and I do it 4 times a day, I get to my 100 ounces. It's just a tiny daily habit you built today. I see, Francisco, you're having your water bottle as well, right? So that's simple. I just have to say 4 times a day, and I actually have set times: morning, night, afternoon, evening, and remember to fill it and keep it at my work desk. It takes care of. I don't have to think about it. So Also, for in terms of nutrition in my house, I don't keep some things at all. I don't buy it. I find that the easiest. If it's not there, you're not tempted to go mindlessly take it and put it into your body. So certain food items and beverages, I just don't keep it around me. You can change your environment. And some people may say it's too regimented, but it works for me. That's a choice I am making. In terms of finding time and where I do, I have made a choice. I'm not asking anyone else to do it. I don't have a device called a TV anywhere in the house. I just, for years, I've lived without it. I've not missed it, and it's totally fine. So I'm not spending no amount of time on that kind of media. And again, I'm not asking anyone else to follow. I made the choice. Um, Same way around exercise. I find that it works best when I've set things on my calendar. Then I don't have to think about it. So two things that are very set in my calendar: Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3:30 in the evening. There is a thing booked on my calendar every week. Interval training, 1 hour. So it just my body goes into that state of mind. Oh, it's Tuesday at 3:30. I have to go do this. If I'm traveling, I make adjustments for it. But otherwise, I book it for the whole year. Same way, Saturday, Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I go to a particular yoga class in a particular studio near my house. It just is built into the rhythm of my life. So I don't have to find the time to do it. It's known. Everyone around me knows Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, leave this guy alone. He always goes to the same yoga class. So I try to become a creature of habit for certain things. And then I don't feel like I'm forcing this and it just becomes very automatic. Every time I board a plane and I travel a lot, once I sit in the plane starts taxiing, I meditate for 15 minutes because there's nothing else to do. You can't fire up your computer. They're not serving food. Everything's quiet. There's no electronics. The plane is taxiing and so on. Take. So it's now become a habit. 15 minutes every plane takeoff is meditation time for me. So you start building those kind of tiny daily habits and fix into your life. However it works for you, all of a sudden the metals formula does not seem that much complicated. Attitude of gratitude on my way to work once a day starts. I always think of 10 things I'm grateful for, just as I'm driving to work. A good way to do my commute. It's just built into my natural life.
So
So
you
that,
need to start
yeah,
training slowly
yeah,
until you get your medals. Because at
yeah,
the beginning, you're just going to do 1 minute, you're just going to do meditation on the airplane. But then
yeah,
when a year goes by, then you put your medal. I like it.
exactly. Yeah, tiny daily habits or atomic habits, as they call them, slowly start building up.
Great tips. Um, you know, I feel a little bit bad. I have to say that given that probably we have 10 or so minutes before you go to your exercise.
Not even. I
Uh,
need to go the next couple of minutes because I need to grab my bike, go halfway around the campus,
okay.
grab my workout clothes.
But I don't want to lose the opportunity to pick your brain in a little bit in what artificial intelligence is about. Uh, if you can share basically how do you think the world is going? It's a different brain. I mean, we have talked a lot about our brain, our container, everything you have taught us. Uh, I remember very clear, and I've shared this with Francisco and Paolo and many other people when we met, and you show me that brain, and you said that right side is creativity, left side is analytical. Everything that probably we are seeing in artificial intelligence today is most of the creativity side, and you put a number to it. You said that I don't know if, where it came from Google, from your research, from where it says the world is gonna probably develop $3 trillion of things around this part, and but in the analytical part that no one is seeing is probably $11 trillion. So they are so the part that we are not seeing is like an iceberg. This I would say is a lot larger than the one that we are seeing. Can in the last few minutes, if you can elaborate a little bit of what you're seeing in your position, in your privileged position in Google about what is going on in artificial intelligence and all those numbers that
Sure.
I
Thank
put in.
you, Fernando. I'll give you the short answer about artificial intelligence, and then if, I'm happy to come and do a whole another podcast session if you like on this topic itself. Uh,
If you don't mind,
Artificial-
we can pick your word right now.
yeah, yeah, we can do that. But let me give the short answer and talk a little bit about AI, and then we can all go back to the drawing board and schedule this session. So artificial intelligence as a concept has been around since 1960s. That's when the term was first originated by a Dartmouth College mathematician called John McCarthy when he called together a group of mostly mathematicians and computer scientists to explore this concept, and they created this word. What we are now seeing with, as with many of these technologies, including the internet, it takes a long time to the theory to develop in universities, in academic places, and then the basic experiments technologies, and then suddenly there's an explosive movement. It happened with the internet in 1996 because of two pieces of technology that was built: the Wide Web by Tim Berners-Lee, and the browser, the Mosaic browser that was created by a team at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So artificial intelligence is similarly facing that browser-like moment when everyday people are suddenly interacting with AI, primarily through some generative AI tools, even more specifically through conversational AI tools, these chatbots. That's made people sit up and take notice, saying, wow, there's this amazing capability called artificial intelligence. But there's many, many pieces to it. Some of it is more publicly seen, and that's the generative AI side, the parts that can do conversation, pieces, music, etc. But there's a whole analytical side. It's not that people are ignorant of it, but a smaller group of people are aware of it. They are using it, and it's driving a huge amount of revenue and profits and economic impact. And a simple example of that would be recommendation engines. When you go to many e-commerce site, to the sites will tell you you may also want to buy these items. People who bought this also bought these other items. Those are all analytical AI tools at work making recommendations. So a lot of different ways by which it is used, or Google is well aware of it. If you use Google Maps, the reason you get such optimized direction, there is a lot of AI components at work on it. It's just that may not be the layperson might not be aware of it as AI. So, but taking a step back, what exactly is AI and this right brain, left brain concept? Humans are an incredible species. We differentiate ourselves from all the other species in the world with one capability: we build tools. Very few other species build tools. There are some simple tools some species do. Birds build nests, and otters build beavers build dams, if I'm not mistaken. So a little bit very basic, one or two tools may be built by others. But human beings are prolific when it comes to tool building. This is what we've done from our ancestral days when we found that we could shape a piece of stone to be a cutting tool and then built the wheel and built transportation thing, and printing press is a tool, and computers are a tool, and phones are a tool. We build tools to solve problems. We build tools to solve problems that improve the quality of life. If you take something simple, for those of you just listening, I'm holding up a pen. The pen is a very simple tool. The pen I'm holding costs $1. But if you pause to think about it, there's an enormous amount of natural intelligence that went into building this tool. In this tool that I'm holding, there is a concept of metal and plastic and branding and pricing. A lot of advanced management concepts are built into this. And it is one powerful capability in that I take the pen and start writing with it on any surface, let's say a piece of paper on a whiteboard. It becomes certain inscriptions, squiggles, and from the inscriptions comes another powerful concept out of a natural intelligence called language. Depending on how I scribe it, you read a Spanish word or phrase, or Arabic or Hindi. And from those words, then there's one more level of abstraction our natural intelligence can do, and that is ideas. From what I wrote, you might see my life story, my next best selling book, or a business plan. This is incredible. This is all comes from our natural intelligence, NI. Before we get to AI, I want you to think of NI. But as I was telling you, Fernando, when we met in Chile, that NI, natural intelligence, is a limited resource. If you have a leadership team of 10 people in a company, I have the natural intelligence of 10 people. What if I could get the natural intelligence of 100 people, 100 brains in the same 10 people. This is what AI has been trying to do. How can we amplify our natural cognitive ability? An example of how we done in the past is how we built bicycles. As humans, movement going from place A to place B was important, and our ancestors first crawled there. Then they learned to walk unsteadily, upright, and then they learned to run. And when we started running, we hit our limits. There's only so far we could go, so fast we could go. So we built a tool, the bicycle. We still use the same legs for running, but differently. And now we could go further and faster. That same concept now we expand to our cognitive ability, ideas, brain, numbers, art, language, and then you arrive at another tool or a collection of tools called artificial intelligence. And this is what the entire community is doing, building tools to amplify our cognitive ability so we can do more faster to change the quality of life. And you might say, do we need to do? Absolutely. There are so many problems that are unsolved in the world that we can use AI in conjunction with our NI, natural intelligence, to solve for. Last night, I had a group of a family visiting from Norway. I took them to San Francisco. I put them in a self-driving car, and we drove around San Francisco. We went to the Golden Gate Bridge in a car that drove itself, took all the streets, directions, traffic signals, uh, police sirens, everything it handled very well, safely. And I've done this multiple times. And what problem does it solve? Two big ones. There are several it will solve, but two big ones are when humans drive, we are not perfect. We cause accidents. We kill each other through bad driving, accidental driving. Self driving cars make the problem go down, hopefully, maybe even bring it down to zero or very minimal. Second, the way we build personal transportation with cars, we put so much material into these cars, metal and rubber and electronics, and the car just sits there for most of the time. We drive it and then we park it there for a long time. Then we drive it short, few minutes, and then we park it. So what a waste of material. And that's why we have so many urban densities now becoming a big problem in terms of streets and parking lots. With these kind of cars, they move all the time. They do their job, drop someone off, go to pick the next person. They're constantly on the move. We don't need that many cars. We reduce material, we reduce congestion. So we solve problems. So, artificial intelligence, I want you to think in terms of tools by which we can amplify our natural intelligence. And the concept that Fernando was talking about, I showed him and Santiago is so if artificial intelligence mirrors our natural intelligence, it mirrors the two aspects of our natural intelligence, right brain thinking, which is creative. There are artificial intelligence systems that do creative stuff, conversations, paintings, pictures, music, and there are artificial intelligence systems that mirror the left side of a brain. Analytical thinking works with numbers and logic and algorithmic stuff. I was pointing out to Francisco that, sorry, Fernando, that a lot of attention is now going to generative intelligence. It is new, it is shiny, it does the kind of things that gets our attention, it glitters. And that's the area. The report is from McKinsey. It's called The Economic Impact of AI, where McKinsey did a bottoms up approach by studying different industries and predicts generative AI could add somewhere around 3.2, 3.3 trillion in market cap. That's roughly the size of a UK economy. Analytical AI, our left side, will add uh, $11 trillion, according to the report, about four times. It is still being used, but less people are aware of it. It becomes a little more arcane. So I hope that is helpful as a framework and as a concept. And we could uh, conclude with that. And then I'm happy to come back and do a second version if your listeners are interested. They might say, no, this is it. This is sufficient. Shut the guy up.
No, I think they will be interested. And we just, as Fernando said, talk about the tip of the iceberg about these AI things. So I think it will be very interesting to do a round two. But for now, we will leave you to get your E of your medal, do some exercise. I will go for my D for some diet. And we really appreciate you coming to the podcast, Gopi. And we hope we see you again and that everybody learned as much as we did.
Absolutely. And Francisco's going for his 1 minute of M, I'm sure. And then Fernando's off to see some friends and get a couple of drinks. And he says, I'm going to take care of my S, even if I've scored a
Absolutely.
little bit of my D.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gopi, thank you very much. I really appreciate it to your time in your busy schedule to share all your knowledge here and basically all your tips and recommendations that for all of us to lead a better life. So thank you very much and have a great time now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fernando, Francisco, and Pablo. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopi.
Yeah.
And now you know it, animals. Give yourself medals every day. Bye, Gopi.
Thank you.